It can ruin a perfectly lovely summer picnic. It can lead you to book a vacation in the tropics. But if you live here, you're going to have to deal with the fog. Welcome to Eye on the Bay. I'm Brian Hackney, and I'm freezing.
I'm Dave Stalk, and I'm burning up.
I'm Liam Makelem, and I'm just right.
And that's what life is like when you live in one of the most unusual climates on the face of the earth. That's what it's like when you live in the fog. It could be a beautiful day near the coast, washed in sunlight, maybe record highs. But when the sun sinks slowly in the west,
suddenly, out of the night, the fog rolled in.
Fog is wet, it's misty, it's mysterious.
Cold, miserable.
Gloomy.
do you like fog? Do you hate fog?
I hate fog. I actually like fog very much.
You do?
Yeah, I do very much.
And if you like it too, you've certainly come to the right place. As we'll learn tonight, the Bay Area boasts the foggiest place in the United States. We'll learn what's in a name. Even the fog has gone to the dogs. We'll also look back on an amazing moment in sports history and learn how the Giants were fooled into coming to San Francisco. And even though Mark Twain never said that the coldest winter he ever spent was a summer in San Francisco, it's hard to deny it might be true.
One of our friends had just moved into this area and woke up and called the fire department because she thought our neighbor's house was on fire.
The fog had rolled in.
And the fire department got out and said, "Lady, it's the fog."
It can stretch for hundreds of miles out to sea and for thousands of miles along the coast. This is the stuff that songs are made of.
The morning fog.
Depressing. It's not cold.
Cold.
May chill the air.
I hate the fog.
I don't care.
Did I say depressing?
Depressing.
Depressing.
Well, how long have you lived here?
25 years. And you're saying, Brian, well, hey, why didn't you move?
We'll move someplace where the fog never rolls in and a man can see what a woman looks like in the morning.
Just make sure that you don't move to a place that's even more famous for fog.
A foggy day
Blast this fog.
in London town
Look for the fog.
had me low,
I don't like it.
and it had me down.
Yes, London. This is where we'll investigate how fog forms.
Hackney? Watson! Watson, come with me. The game's afoot. I've come to England, as you know, to look for London fog.
A new coat.
No, not a new coat. For the real thing, for the condensation, for the sort of fog that creeps in on little cat feet, that sort of fog. Now, if I were fog, where would I be? How would I form?
Fog usually occurs when the air near the ground becomes saturated with water. In England, relatively warm, humid air moves over the cold ground to form what's called advection fog.
So, the first thing we need is water.
Why, we're surrounded by water.
Well, that's true.
Yep, that's why they call it the Bay Area. And that is the source of our cold water, outside the gate, on the ocean. The ocean temperature is frigid off Northern California. It cools the layer of air lying just above.
And as the air cools, the water molecules combine into little droplets, small enough to remain suspended in the air, but large enough to be visible.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
The fog sucks during summer.
I actually like fog very much. Woke up this morning to a sight for sore eyes. Fog. Ah, sweet, lovely fog.
That's Lonnie Chang. Lonnie hosts the Fog Blog.
Today is a typical foggy and chilly day in my San Francisco neighborhood, the Inner Sunset. Oh, I think it's actually really nice. It's hallelujah. Fog is coming in. We're going to cool off.
In fact, think of all the other great things we have because of fog. Lighthouses, for instance. These protect ships from what is, according to the Farmer's Almanac, the soupiest place in the country. Point Reyes in Marin, over 200 foggy days a year. Fog has also given us our share of scary movies. The Fog in 1979. The House of Sand and Fog. The Fog again in 2005. They've given us some of the greatest lines in cinematic history.
There's fog in the air.
There's a fog bank out there.
The fog's coming in.
Blast this fog.
I mean, really, who needs,
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
when you've got,
The fog is moving inland.
Is this thing yours, sir?
it's this presence of fog along the shoreline that makes for some of the most dramatic temperature differences on the face of the earth. I mean, I'm standing here at the coast, it's overcast, it's windy, and it's 56 degrees, and yet just 36 miles inland. Dave, are you there? Dave Stelk.
Hello?
Hey, Dave.
Well, hey, Brian. Yeah, well, here in Walnut Creek, it's sunny, and it's definitely warm, downright hot. In fact, it's 96 degrees. You know, Brian, it may interest you to know that in no place in the United States, maybe even the world, is there such a regular, dramatic difference in temperature over such a short distance.
Thank you, David. It is interesting, and actually, it's that contrast between the marine air here and that heat inland that probably makes for the most persistent cold front on the face of the earth. No wonder the Sugarmans are shivering.
A foggy day.
It has been said of New England weather that if you don't like it, wait a minute. Out here you could say if you don't like the weather, walk a block or wait a while. After all, the fog that's here today could be gone with the wind.
After all, tomorrow is another day.
Coming up, if fog depresses you, see what this doc prescribes. Plus, CBS 5's Mike Sugarman rants about what the darn fog has done to his lawn.
Welcome back to Eye on the Bay. I'm Brian Hackney. Tonight we're covering what you might think of as the depressing subject of fog. A lot of people are really brought down by this phenomenon. But as you can see, there's a company in the South Bay that is using this as an amazing display technology. We're going to talk about that later. But first, if fog gets you down, you are not alone. We'll begin by talking to two people that you may recognize. One of them works at Channel 5. His name is Mike Sugarman, and he does not have much nice to say about fog.
Depressing, damp,
Cold, miserable.
No surprise, it gets people down. It can lead to mental problems. It's even been accused of murder.
The fog came in and she wandered around. They found her body 2 days later.
And what about living in the fog? Does it make people crazy? Or are they already crazy to have chosen to live there?
You can't get worse than this.
KPIX newsman Mike Sugarman and his wife Janice have been shivering in the Sunset District for 25 years.
Yeah, oh yeah, I hate the fog.
You know, you wake up on the weekend days and you go, oh God, look at this, it's terrible. And I'm getting ready for work and I'm listening to the radio and it's highs today in the 90s. And I'm looking outside and I can't see my neighbor's house.
What you don't want to see is fog people when it does get warm because we have the worst summer clothes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like really geeky shorts that we've had for 10 years that went out of style because how often do we wear them?
Why in the world would these fog haters stay in the soup? Haven't they heard of San Ramon or Walnut Creek?
Move to a suburb? Woo!
Yeah, no, we're urban. You know, we're city people.
Talk about gluttons for punishment. Mike has replanted his backyard lawn 5 times.
This used to be beautiful grass. You know, AT&T infield? This was it right here. 1, 2, 3. These are all different beautiful lawns I had. I think the fog has made me insane.
Of course, that's not a surprise. I mean, even psychiatrists get down about the weather, including Dr. Janice Cohen, who runs her practice out of her place in the Sunset District.
I think what's interesting is that the issue about the fog and causing depression, I think, is less the temperature and more the lack of light and sunlight. Well, you wind up sleeping a lot. You tend to eat more and gain weight.
Even the physically fit are vulnerable. Take the San Francisco Seals baseball team, who built Ewing Stadium in the foggy Richmond district in 1914.
First game on May 16th had 14,000 people. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
June 6th, the game was canceled due to fog. They couldn't see.
My God.
But then the next day, they only had 200 people.
The Seals froze through one season, then they picked up and moved. The stadium, they tore it down.
A fan said you should call it Icicle Field.
So is there any cure for fog-induced gloom? The doctor says, run for the hills.
Go to warmer climates. You can go to the East Bay on weekends instead of staying in the city where it's really foggy.
Still to come, if the man who wanted to build a home for the Giants had first come on a blustery day, there would have never been a Candlestick Park. You've got to hear this foggy tale.
In 1957, Major League Baseball was looking west.
The progression was going to be, it was a natural progression. The population was moving west.
The Brooklyn Dodgers and the New York Giants went shopping for new homes. Horace Stoneham was the New York Giants owner. Larry Baer is one of the owners of the now San Francisco Giants.
San Francisco and Los Angeles were becoming big centers. San Francisco was a big financial center in those days.
City officials took Horace Stoneham to show him some spare property they had called Candlestick Point. And Mr. Stoneham liked what he saw. It was 10 a.m. The sun was shining, birds were skipping off the water. Stoneham could already see his beautiful new ballpark. Horace Stoneham probably imagined he'd be playing baseball on a day like today. No wind, 80 degrees.
Nice and sunny. Except problem is we don't play any baseball games at 10 a.m.
So the city began construction of Candlestick Park. One afternoon, Stoneham paid a visit to see how his new ballpark was shaping up. It was kind of cold and blustery. Some fog was creeping over the mountain. "Ah, don't worry, Mr. Stoneham," said a construction worker. "It doesn't get really bad out here until after 3 o'clock. And as the story goes, Mr. Stoneham looked at the construction worker and said, 3 o'clock? That's when we play baseball." On April 12, 1960, it was sunny and warm at Candlestick as Vice President Richard Nixon threw out the first pitch. But then came the first night game, and then came the fog, and the wind, and the cold. In time, Candlestick Park would be frozen in history as one of the worst places to play baseball.
This place sucks. I mean, that's all there is to it. It sucks.
The fog would, it was like a waterfall.
Terry Forget had season tickets at Candlestick.
The fog would come over the center field lip and just come down, rain down till oftentimes you couldn't see center field.
Jim Davenport played third base for the Giants at Candlestick during a fog delay.
One game they stopped it, they lost the ball. The ball was hit, and the outfielders didn't really know where the ball went, and that's when they delayed it for about 45 minutes.
Fans and players wanted to know, was this the best place to put a baseball stadium?
If you were to try and find a bad spot,
Jan Knoll is a meteorologist.
Here at Candlestick would be one of the worst possible that you could find.
As the sea breezes kick in, particularly in the summer during baseball season, the fog breaches the San Bruno Gap and funnels down Visitation Valley, picking up speed as it steams straight toward Candlestick Point.
Then it hits this great big hill back here.
Stadium designers thought the hill would block the fog and the wind, but in reality,
it gusts, it swirls around. It just is about the worst possible situation you could have. So you get little curly cues of wind that can come from any possible direction. There we're at 16, 17, 18 miles an hour.
And this is a calm day.
Valley Forge, Bastogne, Candlestick Park.
What we did was we said, okay, if you have a lemon, let's make some lemonade. And what we did was we created this little button called the Quad Candlestick, which was a medal that went to anyone that stayed to the end of an extra inning night game.
A literal badge of honor. Terry has 20 or 30 quads. Sandy and Annie Wooten have more than that.
Oh, yes. Those are great. We got a lot of them.
The Wootens now root for their Giants in their new home, the friendlier confines of AT&T Park. But one thing's for sure, there was no such thing as a sunshine fan at the Stick.
There were no people on cell phones, the people that came out here really came out for the ball game.
And had Horace Stoneham made his first visit to Candlestick Point on a foggy day, San Francisco may never have gotten their Giants. Legend has it Dodgers owner Walter O'Malley gave Stoneham first dibs.
He actually, lore has it that he said, Horace, do you want LA or San Francisco? He went out to Candlestick Point, Mr. Stoneham did, and said, I'll take San Francisco.
The San Francisco Dodgers?
I'm glad it was the Giants.
When we come back, why these Bay Area businesses capitalize on the word fog.
Welcome back to Eye on the Bay. I'm Brian Hackney with a big smile on my face, despite the fact that we are talking about fog, which some people might think of as bleak, but other people identify with fog so much that they have actually named their business after it. You might say that for them, fog hits the right note.
We had fun tracking the plethora of fog-named places around the Bay Area, like here in Berkeley at Fog City Woodwinds.
And we said Fog City Woodwinds, they go, oh yeah, San Francisco. And it has that little bit of romance to it.
Another huge fog brand is the #1 rock station in the Bay Area.
Welcome back. It's Dave Morey on KFOG 104.5 San Francisco. KFOG, KFOG with San Francisco is probably the best, most appropriate set of call letters for a radio station to any city in the country, maybe even in the world. I've never heard of a better fit. The foghorn.
For canines, there's Fog City Dogs.
We tried to think about, what are the two things we really love to do, and it was work with dogs and be in San Francisco. So Fog City Dogs sort of came together naturally.
For a meal in the mist, you've got the Fog Harbor Fish House at Pier 39.
I believe they come to San Francisco expecting to see some fog, and when they dine with us, they will see some fog on most days.
Ready for dessert? How about a newsstand that's also a chocolate store? Fog City News.
I wanted fog to be part of the name because it epitomizes San Francisco, but I also wanted a name that was unique that wouldn't exist anywhere else in the country. You couldn't have Fog City News in Detroit. It wouldn't make sense.
Thirsty? There's Mad Dog in the Fog, a typical Brit watering hole. Liam would approve. And for that wake-up cup of joe, it's Fog City Java in Pacifica.
Not that many people come out here when it's foggy, so we kind of have it to ourselves. It's kind of romantic, I think.
Also along the coast are the Fog Zone Smoke Shop and Fog City Indian Food and Pizzeria in Montara. The Bay Area's largest Gaelic football club is the Fog City Harps. Why Fog City?
From the way the fog comes in the evening, so they decided to just call it Fog City, and then the harp is the Irish emblem, so that went from that.
Most of our home fields are covered in fog, so it fits.
Finally, we found some fog technology in a place where fog rarely goes. Mountain View? What is this?
This is fog screen. This is really amazing.
This is the world's only walk-through projection screen made from dry fog. And this ultrasound blasts the water into very tiny droplets. By and large, everybody just loves it.
If you'd like to amaze your audience with a fog screen, you can rent the system, but it's not for everybody. The cost ranges from $5,000 to $10,000. Well, that'll wrap up tonight's look at a subject we hope we've made more clear: fog. And if you have any questions about what you've seen during the course of the show, log on to our website, cbs5.com/Eye on the Bay. Thanks to the folks here at Fog Screen, I'm Brian Hackney. I'm going to retreat behind a curtain of course, fog. Thanks for watching.
Archival images and video provided by the following: